And very briefly, however, I do want to mention on his return flight from Lebanon, the Pope just gave an update on the situation with the German bishops. We've been talking about the German synodal way and the German bishops for years now. Very controversial for some of the reforms and doctrines that they're pushing for. They've been teaching that, for example, homosexuality is not a sin, it's normal, a normal human condition, and to act on it is within the will of God. And they've been pushing for things like women's ordination, all sorts of things that are just incompatible with Catholic doctrine. They've been doing so with impunity. The Vatican has been in dialogue with them for a number of years on these controversial aspects of the German synodal way, and to really little benefit. It's done very little to actually rein in the German bishops, it would appear. And we even saw after Pope Francis passed away, they pushed through even further radical reforms in that interregnum period, kind of taking advantage of the time period where there's no Pope. And so we've been seeing some really concerning maneuvering from the German bishops and maybe a poor ability on part of Rome to rein them in. Well, Pope Leo was asked about the German bishops on his return flight, and here's what he says. He says, a process is underway to try to ensure that the German synodal path does not stray, so to speak, from what must be considered the path of the universal church. And then he added that he hopes that things will be resolved positively. So we don't know what kind of measures he's referring to. It doesn't sound like these are going to be mass excommunications or mass retirements, since I don't know if that would be labeled a positive resolution. I think that would be a little different than what he might have envisioned here. It sounds like this is going to be a little bit more of the same, the dialogue, accompany the German bishops, try to find some kind of common ground kind of thing. So far, that hasn't worked. Maybe, however, he has a different plan. Maybe he has, some kind of plan in mind that will work. We'll see. We'll find out. Of course, a person can be hopeful, but certainly something really needs to be done about the German bishops, because it's very clear that they're teaching things that are heretical. I mean, and I'm not being rhetorical here. I'm talking about things that are contrary to dogma. And that's, of course, not fitting for a bishop, let alone an entire Episcopal conference to do. And yeah, that causes some issues because, the Pope might have to excommunicate an entire Episcopal conference and replace them all, which would be pretty difficult. But I think, like I said, for years now, seems like it's already come to that point. I don't know what kind of benefit dialogue and stuff like that will really contribute to at this point. I think, we're way past that, but maybe I'm wrong. And maybe, again, Pope Leo has something else in mind. So I guess we'll find out more soon, but he is hopeful that something's going to happen to help them not stray. We'll see. I'll let you know as soon as we find out more details on that, but I wanted to sneak that in just because I did find that to be an interesting update. By the way, I want to remind everybody, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you appreciate the content of this channel, I certainly would appreciate your support, so go ahead and do that now.